Good afternoon. Palek, our audience met you briefly in the video we just saw, and that was filmed about 6 months ago. You got off a plane yesterday from your home in Juba in South Sudan. Can you tell us what's happening now?
Well, it's devastating. The war is still on in South Sudan. It's now almost everywhere. What people see on the media is just a fragment of what's actually happening every day in our lives. The killings, the rapes, the disappearances, the destruction is very, very real and very close to us. In Juba, that's the capital of the city. There are two realities. In the capital, there is no open fighting, but there are other challenges that the country is facing. The economy is deteriorating day by day. Around the time the video was shot, the dollar was equivalent to about 3 South Sudanese pounds. Today, it's 16. It's very difficult to get fuel. It's very difficult to get a bottle of water in Juba. If you move outside of the capital to the states or to the outskirts, there's a different situation whereby the war is actually happening. There is actually fighting. Famine and starvation are happening now. I come from a village or a town called Malakal that's in Upper Nile State, and Malakal is now literally a ghost town. So if you imagine with me DC with no residents, with no business, with no people, because everybody fled for their lives. That's how it is now in Malakal. It's only the army in the streets. The women from my village, there's no food where they are, so the only place where they can get food is inside the UN camp. So the women leave every morning to the UN camp to look for food, knowing that that day they're going to be raped. And when the risk is very, very high, they can't go to get the food. We have reports of people resorting to eating grass. It's that bad. So I believe that the 12 million so people in South Sudan deserve peace. We've been fighting for decades. We were born in peace. We grew up in in war. And we grew up in war, and all that we know is war. So I think that it's about time that we start asking ourselves serious questions like, this war, what is it that we're not doing right? What is it that we need to do differently for this senseless war basically to stop? So, yeah.
What do you think it's going to take to change the situation?
To ask the people, what do they want? What do they need? All this process does not include what people want. So if people are involved, engaged, in the government that determines their fate, that would at least guarantee not only sustainability, but also ownership of the process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria, we caught glimpses of you in the video we just saw. And those glimpses don't convey the decades of leadership in your home country of Sudan. If we were to make a video of Sudan today, what would we see?
You would see war and conflict in different parts of my country. You would see a troubled economy, basic things like sugar, milk, and flour. Their cost is like 5 times more than what it used to be a year ago. But at the same time, you will find civil society active and committed to bring peace to the Sudan. And you will find women bridging divides. We are bridging divides with our sisters and brothers from South Sudan. When South Sudan voted for independence a few years ago, I actually had conflict feeling and very mixed feeling because I was truly happy that my sisters and brothers voted for their own country, but at the same time, I felt a great loss. And everyone assumed at that time we women will stop working together after separation. But we are too much interconnected for that. When people, a lot of people actually, were talking about where exactly to place the border and what kind of pictures should appear in our new currency, we women were talking about how many mixed families we have, how many nomadic communities need to cross the borders freely, otherwise they will starve or go again for war. We were talking about the so many children who had a mother from one side and a father from the other side. And suddenly they found themselves not knowing whether they are citizens anywhere. You will also find women bridging divides in our own country. I'm sure many of you heard about the Nobel Peace Prize, which went last week to groups of civil society in Tunisia who helped bringing peace through a process of a national dialogue. We have a process like this now in Sudan, and our task force is actually doing what those civil society in Tunisia did. We decided to strongly engage in this process to make it credible, because we believe that unless it is inclusive with a strong women inclusion, it will not make peace in our country.
We'll meet you here next year when you've got your own Nobel Peace Prize. Joe, you've worked in Sudan and South Sudan for about 10 years. Your job title is not gender advisor, nor are you an ambassador yet. Stay tuned, everyone. But you always make it a priority to work directly with women. Why?
I first went to Sudan about 10 years ago, as you said. And while trying to sort of learn the ropes and learn the background of the country, I was really consistently impressed with the insight women offered. And I want to mention here, this insight was particularly related to the local situation, the situation of the grassroots, especially relating to economic issues and security issues. I remember a group of women kind of eloquently speaking about, problems they faced in a village along the border. They had friends, acquaintances in other villages, and they were reluctant to come to their village for communal market days. And we kind of looked at issues like this and said, look, this is a human face on this serious issue, and used that to sort of influence our messages and our stances on various issues.
So tell us what it's like on a day-to-day basis. You're someone who thinks this is important. You get it, so to speak. You walk into the office in the morning, and you do what?
Right, so for about 3 years, I worked at the State Department in the Office of the Special Envoy to Sudan and South Sudan, and we're fortunately joined by former Special Envoy Ambassador Princeton Lyman, who's here today. He did a wonderful job. And he understood what it means to include women, and he sure pressed us to work on this on a daily basis. I want to mention quickly 3 things we did here in the office. The first one is we went on countless trips. Probably couldn't even mention how many we went on. And before these trips, we'd reach out to people and arrange meetings at universities, meetings at the embassy, meetings in hotels with women to help inform what we were working on. Secondly, we didn't have that many program funds in our office, but we made sure to provide significant and actual funding to get women to come together to advocate, to form messages, and then lobby people, whether it was in Sudan, South Sudan, or regionally. Lastly, there was an agreement signed in September 2012, and we wanted to say, how does that agreement affect women? We commissioned a study to look at that, and that kind of, again, informed how we talked about implementation of this agreement. These things are simple, yet I think they were effective, and it was certainly an honor to be part of this whole process, so thank you again to both you women for the work you do.
Thank you.
Jackie, what Joe just spoke about is reaffirming what me and Maria have said. And for example, if a woman in Bosnia gets raped, I feel her pain. So if there's hurting or destruction or pain in South Sudan, I expect the world to feel our pain. So what we're basically asking for is solidarity with us in our issues. And as Martin Luther King said, that injustice somewhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So that's it, basically.
Thank you, 3. And I want to recognize you're talking about a war that's going on right now. This is the present. And you're going on an airplane back home to war in a couple of days. It takes great courage to do that, and we're so grateful that you are here with us talking, and we hope that you look out in this room tonight, think of all the people watching on the live stream, and remember the support that you're getting from all of us as you do that. So thank you very much. We want to turn briefly now to another part of the world to hear from a woman who was kidnapped, a woman who was tortured. She was tortured alongside with her own mother. And she's a woman who, like Maria Pilek and many others, kept fighting for change in her own country. President Michelle Bachelet is now in her second term as president of Chile. She couldn't be here with us today, but she wanted us to hear her words. Let's listen.